something even Judge Walmsley had not heard of. We haven't heard of it in Georgia, but I have heard of it in different jurisdictions, Judge Ashley.
Right, and Julia, I really appreciate you brought up. That's because it's ABA, the American Bar Association for Lawyers, that's in the context of. I want to also bring in Kirk Nurmi, the former criminal defense attorney who represented Jodi Arias. And let me start with you, Julia, and then Kirk, if you could jump in, please. One of the things I noticed was an objection during that first witness that you referenced. And bottom line, the judge said anything regarding from that witness, the use of force and de-escalation, asking about it on cross, was not relevant. Julia, are you surprised at that ruling that would not be deemed relevant by the court?
Not surprised, because we know how the court ruled on the use of force expert that the defense wanted to bring in, but that was denied. The goal that the state says the defense is trying to do is to show that this was a law enforcement situation. They were acting as police, so the jury needs to understand how police are allowed to act. So it seemed that they were trying to, or what the state believes they were trying to do as far as the defense, was skirt around that ruling from the judge and use this police witness from the state to be their use of force expert to try and show that the McMichaels at least were acting like police officers at the time and had a higher ability to use of force.
Right, and that exactly, Julia, is what I thought. Now, Kirk, let me ask you this, because we know that it's no longer a law, but citizen's arrest was a law in Georgia at the time of the incident, and the defense is it was a citizen's arrest. So if, in fact, they're going to claim it was a citizen's arrest, in your opinion, should they be allowed to get into the use of force and de-escalation testimony?
Well, I don't think so, because I think it's an apples and oranges comparison, because we're talking, and I think this is why the judge ruled against the expert and against the area of cross-examination today that Julia just described, because they're not law enforcement. And we're going to see throughout this trial the defense, each one of the defendants try to correlate their defendants to law enforcement, try to draw that connection like they're one of them and they were acting in accordance with that. But that is an apples and oranges comparison, and I think the judge correctly kept all that area of cross-examination out.
All right, so Julia's done an amazing job filling us in on everything that happened today. Kirk, let me ask you in the last 30 seconds to a minute, who do you think where do you think the prosecution and the defense stands at the end of today?
Right now, if we're talking about a horse race, unfortunately, I see the defense in the lead a little bit. Their opening statement had a good theme to it, this connection to, good for them anyway, this connection to law enforcement. And we saw it happen in the first witness. The state didn't really do that. They give us details, but they didn't give the jury a theme to look through the lens at the evidence as presented. And that was disappointing, I think, from the state's perspective.
All right. Thank you so much, Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, for all of your continuing live coverage there from Brunswick, Georgia. We'll look forward to seeing you again on Monday when jury is expected to be back to begin trial at 9 a.m. on Monday. Kirk, you're going to stay with us up next. We'll talk more about McMichaels and Bryan. A lot happened today. Stay with us here on Court TV Live. All right, welcome back. We're continuing our discussion, of Georgia versus the McMichaels-Bryan case. These are the three defendants accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. Still with me, I have the former criminal defense attorney for Jodi Arias, Kirk Nurmi. All right, Kirk, before we jump in, I'd like to listen to a little bit of the cross-examination of the first and only witness presented today in this case, and that is Officer Duggan. This is the one who had the body cam video that was shown. We did not show it here on Court TV because of its graphic nature. Let's listen to some of his cross-examination.
One of the things that you did at some point, I think we may even see you do it on the video, is you kind of indicate over here, and you ask Travis if he is okay. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what you meant by is he okay essentially is because he has blood on him and because he's there at this scene of this shooting, you want to know if he's got a physical problem ongoing at that moment, right?
That was the meaning of my question.
That was the
yes.
meaning of your question, but he interpreted that in his response to you with kind of an emotional response by saying, no, I just killed someone.
That's correct.
Okay. And as you and I were talking, and I was asking you to help me understand how you interpreted his emotional response. I believe what you shared with me is that it was like a driver of a car who had just hit a child, and then asking that driver after that accident, "Are you okay?" And the person says, "No, I'm not okay. I just killed a child." That's how you kind of likened it to me. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, Kirk, let's talk trial strategy in a case of this magnitude for a moment. We know that was Jason Sheffield. He's the attorney for the son, Travis McMichael. Now, the other two sets of attorneys representing the other two defendants did not ask any questions on cross-examination. Do you believe that this is a coordinated plan in terms of who's going to question which witness?
I sure do. I believe it is. And if there's any divergence, maybe one will jump in. But ultimately, I don't think they want to belabor the point. Maybe it's a bit of division of labor, but they got in there. We heard the cross-examination around centering on this theme that they began in opening, that these defendants were acting lawfully in accordance with their training as law enforcement officers or former law enforcement officers, in accordance with their rights as citizens to make an arrest. So I think as long as everything stays, that theme stays the same, I think we're going to see all these defense attorneys kind of work together, not belabor the point, get the points they need to make, points consistent with their theme, and move forward.
All right, so let's talk about the theme, because I felt like all of the attorneys had very good themes and strategy in presenting that in their opening statements. But one of the things I noticed, Kirk, is that the attorneys representing various defendants really did say, this is what Travis thought, this is what Gregory thought, this is what William Bryant, well, he didn't, because he's actually reserved his opening. But when they say that, this is what they thought, to me that means we can expect those defendants to testify.
Yeah, that certainly is the case. And, you know, when we have a self-defense case, you have to kind of mitigate towards that anyway, because a defendant is supposed to explain why they felt their life is in danger. At least I think the jury's going to want to see that or hear that explanation right out of the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I think that is a harbinger to the fact that we are probably going to see the McMichaels testify in this case.
And Kirk, the significance of this case just really cannot be overstated. We know that nationwide, worldwide, the video's horrific. It's so horrific, we can't even show it because of the graphic nature of it. And so what do you predict might happen in this case? I know it's day one, I know we don't have a crystal ball, but what is your prediction in terms of what we might expect for all three of these defendants?
Well, you know, ultimately, the star witness in this case, the only evidence that's probably going to rule the day is the videos, right? We've seen them over and over again, not some of the more graphic portions of it, but the jury has seen the most graphic portions of it. And the one thing about that with the jury, you can almost be assured that when a juror sees a video like that, that is the most graphic depiction of any killing that they have ever seen, probably the only video of any killing they've ever seen. And that is going to have such an emotional impact and such a power that the words of the attorneys, no matter what they say, no matter what technical hiccups they have, that's really probably ultimately where the verdict is going to lie, the jury's reaction to those videos.
All right, yeah, that video, I mean, I have regrettably in my career seen deceased bodies, pictures and live, and it still is awful to watch. And I think it's going to obviously be very impactful for the jury. All right, thank you so much, Kirk Nurmi, for your patience, for serving as a guest legal analyst with us today. I also want to thank all of you at home for joining us. We are covering two big live trials, very important to watch, to see. You can always watch on courttv.com, so you know the case of Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse, is being live streamed there, so you can watch it. Don't go anywhere, because Michael Ayala will take over the anchor chair next, and he will have more on the McMichael trial here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.